Hi, you'll never guess who I am. I'm the first speaker. I'm Andrew. I'm going to talk to you about local SEO. One of the things I learned from those speakers that do really good talks is that you kind of need to have a bit of a theme to run through, like a story to tell. So I've decided that my story, like looking around for inspiration with my kids at home, is going to be Lego, because it's like having the building blocks for success when you do local SEO right. Because every building needs solid foundations. And if you started out building Lego buildings like I do with my kids, you usually start with one of these, like a big base plate. And that's what you need to get stuff right. So one of the things that people often ask me is like, oh, when I'm just starting out with SEO, what should I do to just get some basic stuff right? And these are the things that I always talk to them about. So like tracking and monitoring, like if I do a really amazing job for you, how are you going to know it works? Are you actually tracking it? Have you got your Google Analytics and all these kind of things set up? These are the stuff, and then some SEO basics. I haven't really got time to go through all of those. So fortunately, there's some stuff I prepared earlier. So I've written a blog post about some of the basic stuff you can kind of get lined up with your tracking and monitoring. So having Google Analytics on your site, most people got Google Analytics on the websites they work on, probably. That's usually not enough. You need to kind of set, there was a thing like on Facebook, somebody asking about it today, I think you saw it actually, Penny, where somebody was saying, oh, I've got Google Analytics on my site, but I want to know which city most of my sales are going. How do I do that? And it's just like, well, Google Analytics can tell you that if you just set it up properly and you have some goals and these kind of things. So some of that stuff to get those things set up is really important. Google Search Console is another really big one. Lots of people go, I've got Google Analytics on my website. And I go, great, have you got Google Search Console? And they go, what? And it's like, okay, well, that's another really important thing. So you can get some advice on how to get those things set up. Some of the SEO basics, that's the more stuff like, can people find your site? Can Google find your site? Can Google crawl it? Is it indexable? Is it fast? What problem are you solving is another big one. It's like, nobody's going to come and go to Google going, oh, that, Andrew SEO guy. They're going to go on Google and go, oh my God, my traffic's just dropped off a cliff. What problem is your business solving? So trying to work out things like that and like your USP, like, great, so your traffic's dropped off a cliff. There are 5 billion SEOs in the world. Why are they going to choose you? And the number of people I work with that haven't kind of worked that out yet, that's another important thing to work out. So some SEO basics and stuff in there. So if you go to optimisey.com/SEO basics, there's stuff I've written about there to help you with that. And the thing I'm going to talk to you about today is GMB. What is GMB? So this is what you get on Google when you Google Optimisey, for me. So you see all this stuff down the left-hand side, this is all the organic results. And then all this stuff over on the right-hand side, this is all powered by Google My Business. So this is the thing that you can set up for free for your business. It might already be out there if your business has existed for a while. Google kind of works it out and puts up a listing, and then you can go and claim it. So that's always the first thing to do. Before you go and set up a Google My Business listing for your business, make sure it doesn't already exist, because then you get 2 and then you get in a real mess. So that's the first thing. So this is Google My Business. All this stuff over on the right-hand side is powered by your Google My Business listing. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's a link to your website, there's the hours that you're open, there's your phone number, there's your list of your reviews, there's questions and answers, there's a map of the places that you serve, there's all kinds of other stuff. Depending on what sort of business you are, you can get additional things in there too. Like if you're a kind of physiotherapist, then you can get a link to your appointment booking system, all this kind of stuff, and it will all appear in the search results when people search for your business. So it's just claiming like a really big space, like this is me, this is me, this is, all this stuff is me, and then this is me too. So I'm just kind of like just going, and I'm just blocking the whole thing of Google, which for my business is pretty good. You can do that for your business too. So let's dig into this a little bit more and look at the stuff that's in there. So I kind of mentioned some of the things about, questions and answers and reviews, and then you get a little blurb about, that I wrote that, like this is me and this is what I do. You can control all of this stuff. And the thing to notice here is the prompts, like the number of times that Google is prompting you to do stuff. So suggest an edit, ask a question, write a review, send these directions to your phone, ask a question again. All this kind of stuff that it's trying to crowdsource information about this business. So it's a bit like, we're not just going to trust what Andrew says about Optimisey. What do you think about it? Do you want to add a photo about it? For all of you people here tonight, if you take photos, I'm not sure I want to recommend you do this, but you could go to my Google My Business listing and add your photos if you want. So of me looking all red-faced and slightly panicked. But you can put them on my listing, and people might be doing that to your business too. So go and have a look. And there's more. If you keep scrolling down, this is still all down the right-hand side of the search results. Then I've got posts. You can do posts on Google too. It's a bit like kind of social media. So you can see there's one up here about the event tonight, 23rd of May. There's the 11th Optimisey event. Here you go, to sign up. And there's links to my social things as well, like Twitter and YouTube. And you get this bit at the bottom, which actually isn't powered by Google My Business. It's people also search for. So that can be useful for you because that's what Google thinks other people want. So it's people also search for, when they look for Optimisey, they also look for these things too. So you might think your competitors are A, B, and C, and Google's going to list, oh, well, we think your competitors are X, Y, and Z. And there's some pretty random stuff in there, but that might be useful information for you about like, oh, right, okay, so Google's probably comparing me to those businesses. So how do I compare to them? Should I be ranking above? No. But it's useful information for you, and you can get all of that from your Google My Business listing. So we're going to dig into this in a little bit more detail. So photos. The thing to do with the Google My Business photos is add some. Put some bloody photos in your Google My Business listing. If you don't, Google will do it for you. And guess what? They choose shit ones all the time. They choose terrible things. They'll choose like screen grabs of the Google Maps kind of walk around up and down the street, and it will look like your office on a wet, rainy Thursday. You don't want that. That's not the first thing you want people to see for your business. So add your own photos. Add some nice ones. Put things up of your, people buy from people, the classic marketing stuff, right? So put photos of your team. The number of times I see people, like particularly design agencies, are really bad for this. They take lovely photos of their beautiful office with no bloody people in them. It's like, what? So I'm going to work with this office where no one works. You're all doing no work. There's no one there. Like, put people in the photos. Take some really nice photos. Get, like, there's photographers in the building. Raise your hand, photographers. Yeah. So you want some good photos and you can't take some? Hire a photographer to take some good photos. You can also put video and stuff in here now as well. So Greg Gifford, who I'm going to mention a few times in this talk, really knows SEO, local SEO really well. You can put videos into your photo listing too, as long as they're less than 30 seconds and under 100 megabytes. So if you've got like products to sell, or like you want to do a little tour around your cafe kitchen or that kind of stuff, you can put videos on there. It looks awesome. Make yourself stand out. Then this thing over here, you can see like you get a map. So these are the kind of places that I'm willing to do SEO for, right? So I'm an SEO consultant, and this is the place. I'm not sure why I've got a bit of an issue with Scotland, but I corrected that a bit later, having put this talk together. But this is not what you're used to, right? When you Google map things, you get this kind of big red pin normally, right? So this is Stranger's Coffee House. This is friends of mine, they run a cool coffee shop in Norwich. When you Google them, you get a big red pin in a map. When you Google me, you get this kind of red thing around the UK, because I'm a service area business. We'll come on to a little bit more about what that means, but it's one of those things. I don't want people to know where I live. I do SEO in my house, sometimes in my pants. I don't want you coming to my house to see that. It's like you're not going to buy from me. I'm not like a coffee shop where you come and get things from me. I kind of bring my service to you. So I'm a service area business. We'll come on to a little bit more about what that means. It used to be that you kind of served a radius. So when you put your Google My Business listing together, you would say, right, okay, here's my address. I don't want you to show a red pin on the map, but I'm happy to work with anybody in like a 10, 50 mile radius, 100 mile radius, whatever. As with so many of these things with SEO, we can't have nice things. When Google did this radius thing, everybody messed with it and tried to break it and cheat it, and they put, oh, I'm happy to serve a 1 billion mile radius. And then, it made the whole thing kind of pointless. So now when you add your business on Google My Business, you have to kind of add cities that you're willing to serve, counties, towns. You can add countries. There's a nice little bug in Google where if you add the UK, your map extends down to some little enclave on Cyprus, because Google thinks that's still owned by the UK. A little bit empire building, but you can, and you'll get your map and it will look like this. What else have we got on here? Phone number. So the important thing to work out with your phone number is that Google is intelligent enough to know about dialing codes. So this is not really my real phone number, 123456, that's me being funny. But it knows that 01223 is the dialing code for Cambridge. So if you're trying to associate yourself as being in Cambridge and you list your mobile phone number, you're missing an opportunity to send Google a really clear signal about where you are. It knows where dialing codes are. You don't have, lots of people use call tracking, so you can see how many people dial your number. So you can have that too, but you can add primary and secondary phone numbers. Make sure at least one of the phone numbers you put has the local dialing code of where you're trying to match up the business for. What else have we got? Questions and answers. So this is a little bit scary, because when I talk to businesses, the kind of assumption with this is going to be people asking a question and then you as the business owner getting to answer it. So they go oh, are you open on Sundays? And you go, yes, we're open on Sundays. Actually, anybody can ask questions and anybody can answer them. So that's like a moment for you to go and have a look at you, because we'll come on to some examples about how this goes horribly wrong, but anybody can answer questions and anybody can ask them. So you get really annoying things where people are having scroll down 3 pixels from your phone number, you'll get a question going, what's your phone number? And it's just look at the listing. But never mind, you can answer that. And you can do those things too. And you can answer them yourself. You can also ask them yourself. Here's an example. This is me asking a question on my own listing. Is it true that questions and answers are rolling out to all Google My Business listings? And there's me also answering it, going, what a great question, Optimisey. Yes, it is true. So it's a little bit of a spurious example, but so you can ask and answer your own questions. If you get frequently asked questions, so people always go, are you open on a Sunday? Can I bring my dog? Can I bring my kids? How much is parking? Where's the best train station? You can put the frequently asked questions on your Google My Business listing. You can also upvote them. You can't downvote answers. You can report ones if people put really nefarious stuff on there. But you can upvote them, and you can do that. Get your colleagues and your friends. As long as they've got a Google account, people can upvote it. You get 3 upvotes, it automatically appears in your GMB listing as soon as you've got 3 upvotes on it. And that's kind of handy because sometimes you'll get a question and people will be prompted to answer it and they'll give crappy answers, and your business owner response, you'll get this little house bite, but you'll be way down the list because you haven't upvoted it. If you get people to upvote your answer floats to the top. Here we go. Warning, unintended consequences. So Google does a thing called Google Local Guides. It's kind of like a sort of point scoring system for, that helps power Google Maps. So anybody can sign up as a Google Local Guide, and then you get prompts to kind of review places that you've been. You might go, if you've got an Android phone, you'll get this kind of thing, and it will say, how was your visit to the Bradfield? You know, what did you think? Give it a 5-star review, or have you got any, upload your photos of the Bradfield. You know, was the Bradfield a romantic venue? Question mark. You know, would you describe this as a child-friendly venue? Question mark. And you get these kind of yes/no things. Google Guides get that kind of prompt all the time. And it's points. You get points for it. Tim will probably be able to know more about this kind of stuff, but it's kind of like a league where you kind of get a level 1 guide and you get 100 points, so you can become a level 2 local guide. And you don't really get anything. Like, I think you need like a bazillion points to get like a Google t-shirt or something. And it's like, you know, for every sort of 6 hours you put in, you get like half a point. But as soon as you put points in anything, it's like Candy Crush. People just desperately want to get higher and higher up the rankings. And so you'll get people that get prompted on their phone, having just been to the Bradfield, and they go like, oh, is there, you know, disabled parking? And they'll go, oh, okay, I'll get a point if I respond to this. I'm going to answer, I don't know, maybe. And that then goes on your bloody listing. It's like, why have you answered? You don't know the answer to the question. Stop up. They get points for it. And you think that's bad? Here's Mr. Gifford's examples from his talk in Brighton. So this is somebody on one of his clients' websites asking the question, saying, your website sucks. Good question. And here's a local guy, David, who's done 111 reviews and posted over 1,000 photos. So he knows his stuff. And his response is, yeah, not a big fan of it either. Really useful. Thanks, David. Then you get other ones like this. Is for a hotel listing. How are the room numbers ordered? I don't know why you'd want to know that. Alan, he's a funny guy, alphabetically. You can even see his little face. He's smiling at his own joke. Really. And if you think that only happens to really small businesses, here's the listing for the London Eye, one of the biggest tourist attractions in London. Got all this information about it, how many capsules they've got, what year they were built, blah, blah, blah. Questions and answers. Do you have to wear a helmet? Maybe a useful question. And the response is, you don't have to, but you can if you wish. I believe Viking helmets are a popular choice. So, and this is on the listing for the Millennium Wheel. Okay, so reviews. This is a bit more of a tricky one, particularly for our British people. So, and like people generally like, it's asking for reviews is awkward, right? Who likes asking for reviews? And you ask people like, oh, what did you think of my work? Like, you know, did you enjoy the Optimisey event? You know, could you just maybe, and you feel a bit like this guy. And everybody's a bit like, you know, I don't want to ask. And like, you know, what if they say something bad? So there's a few tips I can give you to help like make this a little bit easier. So small thanks with Google, I'll come on to in a sec. The honeypotmarketing.com, so you can kind of Google that, like direct-link Google review. But it's a way that you can, and I do this on the Optimisey website, you can put a link and you can use it on your website or in emails and stuff. And when they click it, it will take them directly to your Google My Business listing with the review box open. So they can leave you a review straight away. Because otherwise, if you're asking them, oh, could you know, go on your phone, open like Google, search for Optimisey, find my GMB panel, scroll down a little bit and hit the right review button. Or you can just give them a link and just go, right, click this link and like leave me a review, please. So that makes it a little bit easier. The small thanks with google.com, if you've already got your Google My Business listing set up, then you can use this. And then you can get things like this. And apologies to the designers in the room because this is all templated and slightly horrible. But if you're like me and you like struggle to draw like, a smiley face, this is kind of useful. So you kind of connect, it literally took me 5 minutes. You go on Small Thanks with Google and they give you things like this, like a little zip thing that you can download and you can print it off as like posters or postcards or things to leave on the tables in your office or to stick up in the wall or whatever, that kind of stuff. And say like, prompt people, please support us with your reviews and photos on Google. It even pulls out some of the reviews that you've got. So Andrew's very knowledgeable regarding SEO and really approachable. So you can put those kind of things, and that prompts people to go, oh, that's kind of nice. Maybe I'll leave a review too. And then they go and they search for you. And you can change the designs. There's a couple of things, this kind of like sort of whiter, more kind of googly look, or I just basically like putting that nice review about myself a few times in the slides. So quick summary of where we come to so far. Track everything. I didn't mention that at the beginning because I forgot. But when you put stuff in your Google My Business listing, make sure that you track it. So if you don't know what UTM tracking is, so literally the letters UTM, search for that after this talk, maybe after Tim's talk, and use that tracking stuff on all the buttons, everything that you put on your Google My Business listing. Everything there's a link to like your website button, or you put it in a post, or you have an appointment link, all that kind of stuff. Put UTM tracking on it. That way, when they click on it and go through to your website, you'll be able to see it in Google Analytics. You'll be able to see, okay, right, I got 50 clicks from my GMB listing today, or none, or whatever. But at least you'll know. You'll have an idea about how that works. Categories we're going to come on to in a bit. Photos, get some good ones, put them on your listing. Don't just do 10 and then never add any more. Like, when it changes in the seasons and like, if your office looks a bit different, or you hire new members of staff, or you go on a kind of fun run or whatever, it's like change the photos around in your listing so it looks fresh and interesting. Reviews we kind of covered, get them, make them good. Use all the extra stuff. Use the Q&As, use Google Posts, get that kind of stuff up. Because Google My Business also powers Google Maps. Most people use Google Maps. I can't navigate the way out of my end of my own driveway without using Google Maps. But when you search like for cafe in Cambridge, you get something like this. You get all these little red pins and it shows you where all the cafes are. It doesn't order them randomly. This is Google trying to show you what it thinks are the best ones. So you search for cafe in Cambridge, we think these are kind of the best ones. This order is kind of the one at the top. They paid to get there, that's fine. So there's a little ad kind of thing there, but it's not a random order. The things that Google Maps thinks are important, slightly different from the main sort of search algorithms. It has a different way that it orders things. Distance, relevance, prominence are the three things that how it orders those things. Distance, Google knows where you are. If you're using your phone especially, it knows that you're stood in the Bradfield Centre, and showing you a cafe that's in Norwich is not going to be that helpful. It also knows when you're on a desktop, it's got a fairly good idea from your IP address where you are. The best way I can kind of demonstrate this to clients, and it's an example used by lots of people, is if you search now for takeaway pizza, you'll get one set of results. Same device, take it home, do the exact same search, you'll get different results because Google knows where you are. And if you want a pizza, you don't want a pizza near the Bradfield Centre when your house is 5 miles away. So Google knows. Google also knows where places are. So this is a talk I did I borrowed this bit from a talk I did in Wolverhampton. So this is where Google thinks Wolverhampton is. You search for Wolverhampton, you get the big red pin. There's Wolverhampton. You zoom in a little bit, this is still the same red pin. This is where Google thinks the center of the universe of Wolverhampton is. Right there, that's Wolverhampton right there. You can zoom in a little bit more. It's on the corner of some kind of weird shopping mall. But that's where Wolverhampton is according to Google. Note down here, the Indian restaurant called the Bilash. We're going to use them as an example. You go back to this kind of square mile city centre of Wolverhampton and you search for Indian restaurant in Wolverhampton. Here we go. There's the Bilash, right near where the centre of Wolverhampton Google thought it was. Number 3 on the listing. They've got 3.9 stars. It's not that great a place, but because they're kind of, and this is me searching from Cambridge. So if you're one of those businesses where people are kind of looking for, I don't know, the best SEO in Manchester, but they're in, I don't know, somewhere like Preston just outside, but they want the nearest big city thing. This kind of stuff is important for you because where Google thinks you are in relation to Wolverhampton, I have a lot of clients where they're kind of based in the suburbs of Cambridge and they go, oh, we don't rank for best coffee shop in Cambridge. And it's like, because you're not in bloody Cambridge. Google doesn't think you're in Cambridge. There's ways you can get around that kind of stuff. But if you're not in a place, it's really hard to rank in the map pack for being in that place. Google's not stupid. The way you kind of set this stuff up, like some people were like, if you run a business for yourself, the idea of having a big red pin on Google Maps in your house is slightly terrifying. And it's really easy to miss. So you get this this is what it looks like when you set up your Google My Business listing. So your name and your country and your address and your link to your website. Right down here, this tiny little question at the bottom is, I deliver goods and services to my customers at their location. Yes or no? And people are just like, I don't know. But if you're like a plumber, or an electrician or things like that, nobody cares where you live. You want to bring it on this?
They've even changed it to worse now.
It's worse?
They're saying, do you want to appear on Google? So everyone is going to go, yeah.
Yes, please.
And then it goes, but I serve them, and it's like,
yeah. So it's a tricky question. That they kind of word it in a bit of a fudgy sort of way, but it confuses people. Because it's like, yeah, do I want to appear on Google? Yes, please. And then you get a big red pin in your house. And then people start turning up in your driveway. And it's like, I'm just putting my kids to bed. Do you really need SEO now? So the answer you give to that question is important. And when you say yes, then it's like you're an electrician or a plumber or whatever it is. If your pipes burst in the middle of the night, you don't care where your plumber lives. You want them to come to your house. It's like, if you live 50 miles, I couldn't get to my house. So that's a really important question. That's how you become a service area business. And then you have to start setting where you're going to serve. Relevance is the other thing that Google Maps thinks is really important, which is why you see crap like this in the search results. Because one of the big clues that Google uses for working out the relevance of your business is the name of your business. So this is not the name of this business, but you'll never guess what they sell. They sell CCTV and access control, because when you search on maps for these kind of things, crappy businesses like this are going to rank high. The annoying thing is, from an SEO point of view, is this works. It shouldn't work. It's against Google's terms of service. I really wouldn't recommend you do it, because people like Tim will find you and they'll edit your listing and then you'll get busted out of the rankings. So it's really not a recommended thing to do, but it does work. So what you can do with that kind of stuff is, if you find your competitors are ranking above you because they're spamming their name, you can report them, or you can edit their listing and change it to what it should be. So this should be the name of your business, what you have on your headed paper, what you have on the signposts outside the front of your office, what you have in your email signatures, all this kind of stuff, what you say when you answer the phone. That's always a classic test. When people say, oh, no, our Google My Business listing is, best SEO services in Cambridge, and you phone them up and they go, hello, Optimisey. And it's like, that's not your name. Your name is, okay, so then you change it. The other thing that's really important about relevance is your business category. So when you're setting up your Google My Business listing, you can choose your business category. You choose one primary category, and you can choose multiple secondary categories. This is also really much harder than you think it would be. Does anybody want to have a guess at how many possible business categories there are just in the UK that you can choose from? So if you're setting up your business tomorrow, how many possible categories could your business fall into?
900.
900 is a good guess. It's actually 3,936. And I've written down some really great examples here, some of my favorite ones. So you can be a dairy farm equipment supplier, a gluten-free restaurant, an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organization. I don't even know what that last one is. But those are the categories that you can choose. And Google, again, don't make this easy for you. When you start setting up your business, there is no drop-down to choose from that's 3,936 things long. You start typing, and it starts auto-suggesting. So unless you know what Google has called, so Claire Carlisle, another friend of mine, also knows local SEO really well, pointed me towards a tool called Pleeper. So their URL is really long, but if you go to optimisey.com/Pleeper, it will skip you to their website. They've got a really cool tool in there where you can find that full 3,930, and it's probably got longer since I did that number, because they're always adding to it and changing it around. You can find that full list, and you can search it for, like, right, well, I kind of sell wine, so what about, like, has it got wine, has it got vineyard, has it got, like, sommelier, all those kind of things you can search for and try and find all those things and then add them to your listing, because it makes a real difference. Do you remember our friends, the Belash? Here they are. Search for Indian restaurant Wolverhampton, number 3 on the list. The exact same area, the exact same square mile of Wolverhampton. I did the exact same search, but I changed Indian restaurant for Indian takeaway. No Belash. Not there at all. Not even in the top 5. They're not even like there. I think they were kind of like sort of 15, 16 when I got way down the bottom. Because, and they do sell takeaway food, because I did check, but they didn't have Indian takeaway as one of their secondary categories. And you can see what the categories the other businesses have. So you'll notice here, so New Spice Restaurant, they were number 2 on the previous listing. They're number 2 here as well. The Marigold Indian Restaurant, they were number 1 on the previous one for restaurant. They've kind of dropped down a little bit. But you can dig into they've all got Indian takeaway as their, like, one of their secondary categories. They've got Asian food, they've got restaurant, they've got ethnic food, all those secondary categories in there. And that's traffic they're missing out on. Actually, it turns out, I wrote the numbers down somewhere, there's 1.2 million searches a month for Indian restaurant, and there's about 60,000 for Indian takeaway. So not as many. So maybe the Belash did this on purpose and they knew what they were doing. Maybe they just thought, actually 60,000, we don't want that traffic. I don't know. I suspect they probably just made a mistake. And the way to work out with this kind of stuff is to experiment. So mess with your Google My Business listing. If you're tracking everything and you have that UTM tracking on there, try messing around with your primary and secondary categories. Switch them around for a week. Do you get more traffic or less traffic? Switch them around another way for another week. Yes, Ian?
How many categories can you have or should you have?
That's a good question. So you get then, people are then tempted to spam in like, oh, I'll just add 1 billion categories, I'll cover every possible thing. And then you get to the problem of just diluting things. So if you're then showing up as a crappy result, so you're a photographer, we were just mentioning about good photographers earlier. If you start putting in like, I'm a marketing consultant because like, you could kind of use my photos in a marketing sort of context, that's not a useful result, then you start to then affect your ranking in negative ways. So the correct answer is the right number. but experiment with it. Like try adding marketing consultant in as a secondary category. If your traffic goes up, then people are interested in that. Prominence is the last one that Google Maps thinks is important. So this is taken from Google's like guides around how this stuff works and why. So it's how well known a business is. Some places are more prominent in the offline world, and search results try and reflect. Basically, this is Google trying to stop themselves making mistakes. So if you search for Windsor Castle on Google Maps, you don't want this place. So this is a cafe called Windsor Castle, but you don't want that. And that's a mistake that could easily be made. But funnily enough, the real Windsor Castle is much more prominent in the real offline world than this place. So that's Google then trying to reflect that back into the search ranking. So when you're searching for Windsor Castle, you'll probably find the place that the Queen goes to stay sometimes rather than this place. Depending on if your distance was, a cafe called Windsor Castle and you're 2 yards down the road, maybe this place would rank. But it's basically Google trying to stop themselves making obvious mistakes. The other thing about prominence, this is really long, so I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just going to pick out some of the highlights. So prominence is also based on the information that Google has about the business. When you hear people talk about local SEO, one of the things they talk about quite a lot is NAP, N-A-P, so name, address, phone number, and having that consistently across all your listings, really important. So if you then have one name and address, say you live at 52 Acacia Road, and you have that on your listing, and then you also list yourself in the directory of amazing photographers in Cambridge, and you put 52 Acacia RD, because you couldn't be bothered to type out road because you're in a rush. Not the same. That's not consistent. So all those kind of things that then Google can't match those things up. So when you've got loads of good reviews for a similar sounding address, and we're not really sure, well, it's Optimisey, but then it's Optimisey Limited Cambridge, and I'm not sure if they're the same company. Google won't match those things up. So having that consistency across all the places that you list your business, in links, in articles, in directories, in those yellow pages and all those kind of places that you list yourself, try and keep it as consistent as you possibly can. The Google review count we kind of covered, having more reviews and positive reviews. Google wants to show people good businesses. So an interesting test is when you do that on Google Maps, if you search for coffee shop in Cambridge, you'll get a whole bunch of coffee shops. If you add the word best, it instantly screens out anything with less than 4 stars, because that's Google's definition of what the best is. So if you want to have a positive ranking, and a lot of people do that because they search for coffee shop and they get 5 billion results and they go, oh, I just want the best one, best coffee shop. Boom, your business is gone unless you've got an average of 4 stars or more. And your position in the web results, this is then basically saying, do good SEO. So if you rank really highly sort of generally for related terms in that kind of field and in your business area, then that will also have an impact on your local rankings. Again, because Google's trying to show good businesses. This is me wrapping up. So some more stuff if you want to learn a little bit more about this kind of stuff. So Claire Carlisle, who I already mentioned, so she did a really great talk at Brighton, which is worth digging out. And she pulled together this enormous list of resources. So optimisey.com/local resources. There's people to follow on there, like good people on Twitter to follow, blogs to read, statistics to look at. There's a whole, and she's keeping it constantly up to date, so that's really awesome. Greg, who I mentioned, he works for a big company in the States who deal with car dealers, because you don't tend to, even in the States where they kind of drive around the corner, you don't tend to drive 600 miles to buy a car. So local SEO is really important for big car dealerships. You want to buy a Chevy, you tend to go to the Chevy dealership that's nearest to you. So he works for DealerOn. He does a really cool blog on Wednesdays. He does a little video thing on Wednesdays called Wednesday Wisdom, just like 5 minutes long, just good tips for you to kind of pick up on. And then some guy called Tim Capper who's sat over there. So he has his own website. I actually put this together before I knew you were going to talk. If you want to learn more about local SEO, so Tim writes some really great stuff. I understand about 75% of it. So it's like really useful stuff to kind of take you to that next level. So if you've kind of got the basics together and you want to move things on a little bit, then Tim does some really cool stuff. And that's me.